Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land and later to be YouTube land. I've decided I needed to go live and do a video and talk to you guys about some energies and things that I've been thinking about right now to see what you guys think, to see if you've been noticing similar themes, and talk about that kind of spiritual exercise that comes with working under a dark goddess, living with, I'm using dark goddess in the way that I use dark goddess because there is this dichotomy thing that's happening right now, again with light and dark. But I really wanted to talk about like the interconnectedness versus the individual, the kind of the power struggle thing that's happening. I don't know if anyone else has noticed. Power struggles are a thing right now. Mm-hmm. 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 And so I was just thinking we'd sit and we'd chat. I've talked about this in two separate places already. I've actually talked about it in the Morrigan course a little bit, and I've talked about it on the Patreon energy reading. But I really wanted to get into this because it's been a really strange time for those people who I feel work with like dark goddess energy or work under energies which are not all like okay, I'm gonna just tell you the story, and I think that's easier. So I went for like a retreat thing, and I felt incredibly uncomfortable the entire time. I had physical problems with my back. I felt like I had stepped into the twilight zone because what I had thought I was going to step into was not what was there when I got there. So I was thinking we're stepping into a place for healing, right? And anyone who knows me, who knows how I work through healing and the process of healing, knows that I feel that pain is kind of just natural to the process of healing. Pain is a symptom of something is wrong with the body. Pain tells us and shows us the way. Pain shows us who we are under the dark goddess. Particularly, Morrigan brings these lessons to the fore and kind of forces us to confront our own pain. If you're talking, by the way, guys, I can't see it right now. So if people are talking, oh, there we go. Hello. Sorry. So pain is a necessary part of any spiritual path, as far as I'm concerned, particularly when you work under dark goddess energy, right? And with the balance of all things, pain is the natural counterpart. And I'm not getting completely gothic macabre on you and being like, life is pain. You must only live in the pain, blah, 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 blah. But also at the same time, I'm like ignoring the fact that healing is painful and necessary and messy and vulnerable and raw, leads to this weird stilted agenda pushing kind of healing thing that happens, right? So when I was looking at how these people were presenting the idea of healing, they were telling people that they were going to help them to get back to wholeness, that parts of them had been missing and they were going to get whole by being there. And every fiber in my body was screaming out. I had Chris's like echoey voice on my shoulder. Like, imagine there's a little Chris head sat like on my shoulder. Like, you are always whole. That's my immediate reaction. I immediately energetically pushed back against this idea that you were not whole at some point in your life. And the reason that I say that it's so important to realize wholeness is because then you don't give away your power, you don't give away your choice. So there are times in our life when we do feel powerless. We do. There are times when we're hurting, we're traumatized, we're sick, we're going through the worst trials and tribulations of our life. Hi, thank you for being here. And at those points, we feel lost. We feel in pain. We feel the depth of that unfortunateness, that hurts, that vulnerability, that all the emotions, right, that kind of like drag you into the pit a little bit. But at the same time, you are still whole you're still a whole human being experiencing those things which are a natural part of life, are a natural part of the process. And so, like, the people that were there and people who were arguing for the dichotomy thing of that, you know, that's correct, that they were giving back wholeness, I was just sat there like, am I like the quite literal well, I was going to say black sheep in the room, but it felt like being like the black fox in the room, surrounded by sheep, because this idea that they were going to give you back your wholeness, they were going to provide the answer so that you would be then a complete person, really, like, oh guys, I can't even explain to you how it irked me underneath. Like, everybody at every given point in their lives has the power and the choice. Now, they may not feel the power and the choice in those moments, and we all have those moments where we basically give up our ability to choose because we're like overwhelmed by pain. And overwhelming is, you know, definitely a side effect of very serious pain. We can feel lost, and we reach out trying to find people that will help us when we're in our most vulnerable states, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, like, that reaching out for people is a choice, and that any action that you do at that given point is a choice. You are never not whole. You are never completely powerless. And that idea that, like, drip feeding this kind of like weirdly like pretend high vibration sugary version of connectedness, of priestessing, of I was just like actually shocked. And I was unpacking it with Chris over last night and today, and because it just kind of like shook me to my core. I was like, is it me? Am I missing something here, or is that not empowering people to be able to continue the work that they need to do? Is that not empowering? That's like making them, it's almost like feeding them sugary crack, right? It's like, look at this perfectly sweet, perfect, cute looking, innocent sounding parcel of crack that I'm giving you right now. You chew that down, you get addicted, you're going to be coming back for more, right? Like more services and stuff, and paying them, presumably. And I was like, to me, I felt shook. Like, I'm still a little bit shook by the fact that I went there expecting something completely different. And it's not that the entire experience was without some merit and without some like nuggets of information, because you've got to try and find wisdom wherever you go, and things that you can learn and take on board, and look at how you reacted to the situation wherever you go. Like, there's no point being like it was completely without purpose, because that's not helpful to my growth. But at the same time, I was like, is this just working with like dark goddess energy, that I've gotten to the point where I'm like, she doesn't put us through things that we can't alchemize into pure personal power? Because I feel like every time we go through these fires of personal transformation, these moments which truly they burn our skin, they blister us, they're painful, like the outmoded shell kind of just falls off, and that tearing off of like the things that we've put on top of ourselves in order to, you know, sanitize ourselves, make ourselves more acceptable, make ourselves more likable. I really did feel like the way that I thought and felt was opposing people. And that energy has carried through into different areas today, on social media, in spiritual circles. There have been people coming like left, right, and center for the last day or two to challenge power. And it's like, okay, like, I'm sure there is a lesson here. But when people are coming to you and they're bringing racist shit to you, like xenophobic shit to you, or sexist shit to you, and you're like, why do you think that matters to me? Like, I've had someone basically, you know, accuse me of being English again, so how dare I speak? Firstly, I don't think nationality makes a lick of difference. Secondly, I'm not very English when you look at my genetic makeup. So it doesn't work on any level, right? But the feeling of like people coming in to try and tell you how you should think and how you should feel and how their way is right has been really systematic over the last week and a half. It's been happening again and again and again in different areas, right? And I was basically feeling the shadow of otherness. Now, most of the time, I'm like super into feeling other and feeling how it feels to be other. And that's kind of like the witchy vibration for me. To be apart from the usual, to see the world in a different way, to speak to spirits, to believe in witchcraft, to believe in magic, to believe in divination, all those beautiful things that make life a mystery and unique and worth really delving your fingers into, the deep soils and the roots and the earth and things like that. That otherness is great. But this week really showed me what the shadow side of feeling other is, which is sometimes feeling that whilst you know you belong, whilst you know you connect and you've had this incredible experience of community and you know you're a part of it and you know that you're feeding that part of it, sometimes you still feel alone. And for me, this happens most regularly when I try and step into physical communities, because the most accepted physical communities out there are like half a sidestep from Christianity. And it felt very dogmatic to me. It felt very like sugar coated, and I don't know, I'm not saying it's without worth. Like I said, there was worth in that experience, but at the same time, it just felt like it felt competitive. Like there was this weird competitive vibe of like, I'm going to show the world how priestessy I am. I'm going to show the world how powerful I am. And that's come through all different areas. Like, no, you're wrong because you're English, or no, you're wrong because I do this spell a different way. And it's all been like flooding in with like the shadows of otherness, is feeling alone, even though you know you're not really alone, and feeling kind of at odds with it too, because you're like, on the one hand, sometimes you're too dark for this sugary shiz worth of what people believe, and then on the other hand, like there are people who are like, you're too light and blah 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 for our dark shiz. I'm like sat in the middle somewhere, like wiggling over the line between darkness, like shimmying over the dark and light line, like we're here, we're there, we're here, we're there, we're everywhere, we're here, we're there, we're lightened up, we're everywhere, and like getting yelled at from both sides. It's really weird. And I was thinking about this and how I actually viewed the whole light and dark analogies of our universe, right? So first and foremost, I kind of reject it. Like, my first reaction is like, this is too box-like, this is too systematic, this is too like dichotomy of being like dark and light and mirror. And if you have to get an analogy from me, it's like this, and this is how I've decided it is now. Within my framework of how I work with spirituality, I've decided that darkness and light are much like Persephone and Hades. They are lovers, and they are intermingling and interflowing with one another at all points, and they bring out the best parts in each other, and they bring each other to a kind of ecstasy, a kind of orgasmic release. And that's how I've decided that I will interplay light and shadow, from light and dark, from now on, right? And that works for the different elements of ourselves. So if we're talking about light parts of ourselves, the parts that we show, and dark parts of ourselves, the parts that we keep hidden, maybe, you know, the interplay between personality and how these things all flow within the vestule of ourselves, of, you know, a reflection of deity and things. And so to me, like, when people are like, okay, this is the way over here in this light sugary thing, it's only about love. And I'm like, guys, love can be the most destructive force on the planet. Like, love can be beautiful and enriching and supportive, but love can turn ugly really fucking quick. Like, and then some people will say that's not love, right? They're then like, oh, well, that's then something else. That's a dark emotion then. It's not really love, is it? And I'm like, it kind of is, because you're making out that emotions have to be one or the other. And that was the other part of this healing. Like, you have to like remove emotions from yourself and be done with them, and they are gone, and you feed them away. And I was like, no, though, because those emotions belong to you. Those emotions are your right. Those emotions are sacred. And if you want to alchemize them, if you want to go through the natural shifts in cycles through the emotional processes, that's your right. So to like give them away was like the weirdest thing in the world to me. I understand sometimes you need to release your emotions a bit, right? So we all know that sometimes we need a damn good cry because that emotion has been welling up in us and it's been making us behave badly, quote unquote, in the world towards other people. Or sometimes we're really, really angry and we need to release that because we're walking around with a face like a slapped ass and we're like, you know, we need to release that frustration. Yes, that's absolutely a release that needs to happen. But at the same time, we're kind of alchemizing that. We're not actually like throwing our emotions in the dustbin and being like, I'm done with this now. I'm a holy higher being of pure love because I have gotten rid of my anger. And honestly, I was talking about sacred anger the other day on the This Is the Universal Sign for Facebook page. And I was talking about anger being sacred and things like that. And then I also followed up with talking like the next day about how we need darkness, otherwise part of our soul is missing. And I got called a hypocrite because I've been saying we shouldn't be judging people. And here you are judging people by saying we need darkness. And I was like, how is saying we need darkness judging people? Because I was like looking at it, I was reading through my post, I was like, how did I not explain myself well enough that this misinterpretation thing happened? And after a certain point, you're not really responsible for how other people take your words. If it's so far left field from what you said that like people are basically seeing through their own scope of their own biases and they took what they wanted from it, there's nothing you can do at that point. Like, yes, personal accountability, 100% personal accountability, watch what you're saying, and being careful and considerate of other people while still portraying your truth and still, you know, discussing things. Because to not care is too blasé and arrogant and shitty, but to care too much is like putting your power in other people's hands. So again, balance, we're shimmying between the balance of these things. Tightrope walking almost. Spirituality. Yeah, that's my spiritual path in a nutshell. I'm on a tight wire, like, and I think, like, I was looking at it like, does saying that somebody who only works with light if that's how they took it, mean I'm judging? And I was in a little bit of a space anyway, because I'd felt a little bit judgmental because of all this very love and light thing that I've been put through, and I didn't feel comfortable in that. And I had this internal dialogue of this is missing so much. And I was like, have I been too judgy? I did. I went and sat and had a thought about it. Like, not all comments are like, not all trolly comments, you know, are like worth your time and energy, but I wanted to check with myself, hold myself accountable, and see whether or not, like, had I done the Virgo dismissive thing that Virgo sometimes accidentally does, where she just railroads in on a point and she hurts people by, like, people go flying off to the sides, and then you're like, whoops, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't mean it like that. I don't think so in this case. I think it felt very much like I hadn't been saying anything bad about people. I hadn't been saying you fucked. I hadn't been saying that, you know, you are wrong. I hadn't been saying that, like, you can't realign and balance yourself. I hadn't been saying any of that. I had just stated, you know, we need the darkness as well as the light. And I'm using these terms with quotation marks, right? So there's this weird, like, thing happening. And I was like, what I actually want for people is to empower people, right? And I feel like the truth behind the curtain of all of this is actually like accountability and personal responsibility, and not saying one thing and doing another, because there's a whole lot of that happening. Right? There are people touting feminism who are like tearing women down. They're like, or, you know, engaging in racism, basically, with, like, you know, and there are people touting one thing and behind the scenes it's something else entirely. And I feel a little bit like when I went into that, like, very almost Christo-pagan healing love and light thing, it felt like behind the scenes all was not that. And I know one person who's in that group for a fact is not like that and is well known for bullying new people in the community. So I know for a fact that at least one person isn't what they're pretending to be in that space. So that makes you like question like the authenticity of it. Because for me, I was in a place of pain. And so when everybody else around me was being like, this is for healing, bear in mind, everyone else around me was like, I love this experience and I'm connecting to people in ways that I never thought I would. And I feel so loved and so supported and so cared for. And it was in this same tone of voice. I'm not kidding. Almost every single one of them. And I was just like, is this what healing is to people? Am I like on an island by myself somewhere? Because that's, to me, is not really what healing is. Healing is when you break and something is painful, and then, you know, that pain indicates to you where the change needs to be, where the work needs to begin. It's crying, it's releasing, it's screaming, it's painful, it's all of these things under the Dark Goddess. Support can come in from other beautiful souls, and does, even in a Dark Goddess community, well, especially in a Dark Goddess community, to be honest, because they've been through the worst of the worst experiences usually, and they know what it is to suffer, and they want to help people who are suffering. That's how I feel about it. So like when people come to me and say, you know, I've been through this very, very traumatic experience, can you talk to me about your experiences? Well, thank you for your videos and things. That is the core of why I'm here doing it, you know? So the kind of vibe there was that it wasn't authentic either. And that's a judgment I don't know 100%. So I'm being very careful with that line. It is different strokes for different folks. And I like Melvin just said, but like, I absolutely agree it is. But this is a community, a big community, selling this as a healing thing. And I just, yeah, exactly, Luke. I wondered if it's like trying to bypass pain, bypass the process, bypass the hard work, because healing is hard work, and empowering self and like taking back your power is hard work too. Like there's this strange thing that happens as well with that kind of vibe of community, that you're not allowed to use the power word. Like it's a dirty thing. We give it back to the universe. There was a lovely blog post recently which was about not being supplicant to anything. Like that being, I mean, keep meaning to share it. I saw it, that Anna shared it the other day. And it's about like not bowing down and being supplicant at the same time, like having personal responsibility and working with energies, spirits and deities, and not like bowing down and like handing the power over, because that's not what witchcraft is. It's not like taking back your power in order to affect your will and influence the world around you. So just some thoughts about power, guys. Like, I'm not saying there is no place for love and joy and peace and tranquility and all that good stuff. Like, no, there absolutely is. But at the same time, pain is necessary for healing. And to be healed, I feel like within self, you have to go through those trying times. You have to find the resolution, the resilience, the resistance, the refusal to lie down, especially under Dark Goddess energy. I don't understand how anyone can come to Dark Goddess energy and then think that they can ignore like the key, as far as I am aware, the key lessons that she and other Dark Goddess energies have brought to my life, which is resist, be resolute, fight back, like stand up, keep going. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Don't pretend we're bypassing it. Power! Yeah. Palpatine. That trailer. Still alive. Sorry, I just nerded out for a second. Because to me, the essence of what this kind of summed up for me is I was telling Chris, it feels like the world right now is going, you can't do this. You can't do it that way. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You're not allowed. You can't do it that way. You can't do it that way. You know what Dark Goddess energy does? Watch me. So that's it for this, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to pop this over on YouTube. I've been working around the clock today trying to catch up after being away for a few days. And I'm kind of feeling like full of fire and energy again. So that's a good side effect that I was like, I need to talk about this quick. Because, you know, we need to step into that power and support each other and allow each other to be healed in the ways that we need to be healed, and not pretend that it's all like one way of doing it. And if at any point during this video you think that I'm telling you there's one way of healing or any of the rest of it, let me clarify. I'm not. I'm just balance. Like, I feel I walk around with like a plate, like balance, but balance though, but balance, but balance though, but balance for yourself. And that doesn't have to mean 50-50. It can be like balance, balance, heal, be yourself, step into the dichotomy of these love and darkness like lovers. Be passionate, feel the orgasm of life. That's how I'm ending this video. Many blessings, guys.